Join the team.
Hey team, it's McGuire Review, and we're going to have a little bit of a different video today because it has finally arrived. It is the Maple Wargaming table. That's what I got. 6 cup holders and the acrylic overlay and a couple different felt mats. You can see here are the boxes. We're going to do a little story time to start off here, and then this is going to be a full review. We're going to look at how these boxes are packaged. We're going to look at how these boxes arrived. We're going to look at the quality of what this is after it comes out of the boxes. Did any of it get damaged? We're going to talk about the build, and then the final review of the table, just how it functions. So this is going to definitely be a longer, it's going to be a longer video, but it's going to be a video like there does not exist one like this on the internet that I can find yet. And this is going to be your one video to watch to see all of this for everybody who has received one of these tables. Is your experience similar? For those that have not received the table yet, which there are quite a few, as well as for all the folks that may be thinking about purchasing one of these tables when they do offer this more broadly in the future. Okay, so this is the Wargaming table. Again, it is one of the biggest, if not the biggest table. It's actually a little wider than the large. I don't think it's as long, but pound for pound, I think it is the biggest table that they have, and that's what I wanted and needed. So you'll see all the boxes that are here. There are a couple of other ones that are over here, which house the mats. Okay, so that's all the boxes. Before we start here, I am going to caveat, and hopefully you're still with me here because this part is very important. I have, and I want to be honest about this, like I know some of the Wyrmwood folks, hang out with the Wyrmwood folks when we go to Gen Con, if I do run into them. I've been made videos and I've highly promoted them over the years. So I do like the brand, I do know the people, but that is not going to skew what happens as part of this video and this process here. So I just want to say that for any of the Wyrmwood folks that are watching or anybody that's watching, we're now going into review Josh because as many folks know, there's been a number of things that have been very frustrating through this process. So I just want to state that before we get started, because this is going to be a very honest take on this stuff. Okay, so for the first part, I'm not going to drain this, but I do want everyone to understand the level of frustration, and I have seen from the comments that there are a number of other folks that have run into this issue, and it is not quite solved just yet for me. You will see there are a number of boxes that are included. I got 10 shipping numbers. Only 9 of them at this point are accounted for, and I have been told by UPS that there was a 10th package that was scanned at the hub, and it is now gone. It's been 4 days. They cannot find it. They cannot find it on trucks. That's very frustrating because I'm essentially missing 10% of this table. What I'm missing, I'm not sure yet, and we're not going to know until we get further into the video and we start to build the table. Do we find what's actually missing? Or do we find that there is some type of mistake and I do in fact have everything that I need? That's probably less going to be the case because there were in fact 10 physical tracking numbers and 10 boxes scanned and only 9 of them are here. So that's, 9 tracking numbers are accounted for, we'll say that. That's a problem. So that's step number 1 that I think has been fairly frustrating. I really can't blame that on Wyrmwood at all. But again, we'll see, right? When we figure out what that tracking number is and why it's missing. Is it a process-related problem? Is it a tag fell off and I do in fact have all the boxes and they just couldn't scan it? Is it one of these they strap 2 boxes together deal that I've read about and there was confusion there? I don't know, right? Is it a process problem or is it a UPS, mistake? So we'll get there. That's the first part. So that's been a little frustrating, and that's taken quite a bit of my time to be on the phone with UPS and trying to track this stuff down and find what is missing, okay? So now let's go to the part where we got the boxes at the house. Now let's look at the boxes. For the most part, the boxes are in fairly good condition. We do have some problems. I mean, you have your your stuff like this, right? That's to be expected. I hope there's some padding in there and there isn't, you know, marks from those. We do have stuff, well, I don't know if I have an example right now, but we do have areas where there's like, you know, some like divots popped and punched in the side of the boxes. One of them is pretty bad, but I did kind of feel and it felt like there was padding behind it, so I think we're okay. We've got examples like this where the box has just kind of come apart, but, you know, I don't think anything could have fell out of there because of how the box is designed. This actually should be under the strap, and it's just kind of come out and popped open. We do have examples like this, which I think is acceptable as well, even with looking at this, where this box is just completely busted open, and you can see it's one of the felt pads. I've got one of the burgundy ones. You know, it's a light box, and it probably got squished and then popped open. So we've got that. This here, though, is unacceptable. And, you know, this here is a box that, and I believe what's in this is more than likely the cup holders. I got 6 of them, where you can just see something hit this box and just ripped it, just tore it completely open. This is all loose, and literally it was sitting on the front porch like this. That's another thing I want to make sure is very clear. There is no signing process for this. Even for the cost of this table, that only exists if you are literally at your house when they show up. Maybe you could talk to them, but this was delivered like any other delivery would be done by UPS. They rushed up to the front porch with a couple dollies, dropped everything off, rang the doorbell, waved, and ran away, right? Like, ran back to the truck to do their next delivery. So, you know, I would think for an item that of this cost, there would be more of like a signage and an inspection process. That does not exist at all. And then you get stuff like this, right? Where I would have definitely opened this box on site and inspected it to make sure it wasn't, you know, obviously missing stuff. Now, I really hope there wasn't a bag of like bolts and connection stuff laying here, because if it does, that's gone. But it does feel like this is just all padding, and more than likely those cup holders are all down inside of the middle of this. Okay, so that's the review on the boxes and what they look like. Now we're going to cut to opening a couple of these boxes. I'm going to show you how it's padded inside. Okay, I went ahead and opened up the box that was the most damaged that we saw, and luckily, I mean, what luck, right? The part that got rocked literally was just a corner pad, okay? So it looks like we're good. We do have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cup holders. Let's pop one open. I haven't even looked at these. Let's pop one open. Okay, nice. So you've got the little metal insert in there, and then you have your maple cup holder. Okay, I have to see how that holds up, because again, they had, and you can see that that's a split. That's not a grain line. You can they have the warranty on this, so if that ever cracks off, I'm just gonna phone them up and get another one for free. As long as it works, and visually, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, you could only see it when you got right up on it like that. I don't know. Maybe these are just how these are built. I'm not a woodworker. Somebody tell me if that's just how they are. If that's just how they are, that's how they are. Okay. That's this part. Now we're going to get one of these larger boxes open. I've chosen to open one of the topper boxes. So there is like this giant piece that opens up off the top that kind of forms a top protective barrier. And it's going to be in my way, isn't it? Yeah, awesome. Okay, and then down here, there is a piece of cardboard that is then acting as a protective barrier. And then, one thing to my surprise, which felt was a nice quality move, was this, and this isn't paper, it's like this kind of padding, felty, I'm not sure what this is referred to. It's like a gauze, like a super thick gauze. It's all wrapped around each one of the toppers. Okay, so you've got each topper wrapped. Now, I will say the grain of that maple is looking fantastic. This is exactly what I like. I like that more, you know. Some people may not like that kind of stuff. I love that. So I'm really happy with the grain of this that I'm getting, or I'm seeing so far. You can see each one of them are individually wrapped in this material, okay? So that is really good. The packaging so far is really done well. Now, we'll have to get to the bottom of that to make sure that we have the same kind of thing at the very bottom, so you know something didn't pop up from the bottom side. So I wonder if there's another one of those pieces of cardboard at the very bottom. Okay, got it out. Now, one thing I'll say, not a problem, but the really cool knotting and wood grain work that we saw there just a second ago, most of that is on the underside of the panel of the table, or the topper there, which, a little disappointment for me, because I love that rich, knotty, dark, you know, the different spots, you know, on the grain. I love that rustic kind of look to the wood. For some reason, most people do not, so I understand them kind of holistically putting that stuff, if it happens, kind of on the underside of the piece. But there are some that are on the top. There is a little bit that's on the top, so it still looks good, but most of the really cool stuff is on the underside, and it won't be visible when the topper's on. So, you know, that's just a personal thing for me. I was really hoping to be on the front side. But, all right, back to the review here, the packaging. You can see they do have a nice thick under piece that was at the very bottom. Okay, that comes out, and then there is this just giant, you know, tubular, and this is filled as well, piece that goes all the way around it. And you can see the inside of that is filled as well to give you like a really thick padding. Okay, so I don't see any damage on the topper pieces that I pulled out, at least that one box. So things look really good so far, and it did not appear to have any warpage or anything either. So all that's good so far. Okay, so let's give an example of the plywood here, and the only reason why I'm showing this box is because this probably has the minimum amount of protection and packing, because it's just the plywood that goes on the very underside of the table, which you will never see, okay? We just want to make sure it's not broke. So, box opens up. There is at least a front, nice thick cardboard backer, okay? And there's the, there's the plywood there. Now, interestingly enough, it's not just straight up plywood. It does look like they've got like a layer of pine or something on the very top. You can see there, it's plywood, and you might think, if you don't know much about woodworking, like why in the world would this $2,000 high-quality Wyrmwood product be made of plywood, or at least some of it? And the reason is that's by design. This plywood here is one of the best materials to have, is that underside of the base of the table, which the felt will go on top of, because it offers a minimum amount of like warpage and a maximum amount of strength once the whole table is put together. Okay, so this is absolutely by design, and I would actually be somewhat concerned if they went with just a straight piece of wood. You'd probably get warpage over time. Okay, so this looks good. I don't see any problems with this at all. We'll go all the way to the end there, and everything looks good. I'll show this last one here. This is the legs. So, again, similar type packaging as we saw with the topper. However, it did not have a single piece of cardboard at the very top, which I'm not sure why. I think that would have been similar to how they did the topper. I think they should have done that here as well. I'm not sure why they didn't. This just came off. It was like this. Maybe it should have, and it just didn't get it. I don't know. Here are the 4 legs. I did get counter height, which I thought was fairly unique. I did not want the bar height. It was a little too high unless you were like physically always standing at the table. I didn't want to get these big bar stools. I didn't want normal table height, so I will get benches to go on either side of the table that will tuck under it, and it'll be just high enough that if you're standing, it'll be comfortable, and if you're sitting, it'll still be comfortable. So that's what I did. Here's your 4 legs, and those look really good. Let's pull one of them out. Did a little inspection, and I didn't see any issues with the legs. Okay, that all looks good. Okay, all right, so there's all 4 legs. I think that's probably the last thing that we'll show. I don't know. I might show one more of these bigger boxes, depending if it has a different structure. If it does not, then this is the last piece of packaging and how this looks in the package that we'll show, and then we'll get to the build. Got the acrylic overlay pieces off. This obviously is a blue paper that gets peeled off. So they look good. There's 3 large pieces for the War gaming table. That's definitely an upgrade that I wanted. I thought about just doing my own thing and just going and having some cut, but I thought, you know what, for the convenience of it already being cut to fit the table perfectly, and it's got this really nice little cut out here on the sides to be able to kind of get your fingers in to put them in and get them out. So this is going to be something that's really nice when you got large maps and you're playing RPGs with this table, or really anything you want to protect. It could even be a board game you could set up and then put this over it and then have your pieces on top. So really cool. Highly recommend this particular upgrade. Okay, another quick example. We've got the toppers. Now, folks, this is why I went with maple. Like, this is just, it's just awesome. Like, look at the grain that you get, and then this is a top. This is a top portion, which I'm loving the way that looks. Right? Then we flip it over. Look at all this goodness underneath. I'm not getting any of that. It's all on the bottom, right? Here's a top. Now I got a little bit right there. It looks good, right? A little bit of marking there. It looks good. Look at that rich wood grain. Then we flip it over, and it's just a tease. Look at this. Why is that not on the top? Why? It's such a tease. I don't know. This is the kind of stuff that I love. So, you know, for me, this is just a tease. I think for most, they would be happy that they're putting the due diligence in to kind of put that at the bottom and make the top a little bit more clean. But, wow. Like, it's a tease for me. Okay, I got to show this last piece because the tease continues, right? Like, I'm going to pull this one out here. So here's a top, right? Looking good, right? Looks awesome. I'm happy with that. That looks pretty awesome. But then we flip it over. Oh, are you kidding me? Like, this is what I want on the front, on the top of my table. This is what I want. Like, this to me looks rich, right? This to me looks awesome. Right? When I got that on the back that nobody sees, that, like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I get it. Most people would be like, oh, and they'd be sending it back. Like, they want that. They want that cleaner look. Some people may not even like that, right? That darker strip that goes through. This one, you can see the top is very, very clean all the way down. All right, so this was a topper box here. Nice. It had a bunch of pieces in it, so we're going to give that a good smell. That nice wood will smell right down in here. Oh, no. Don't do that. Don't do that. Oh, man. I thought I would get a good whiff of that good wormwood smell. Nope. Okay, I promise this is the last piece of packaging. But I wanted to show this because this is packaged really, really well. Probably better than anything so far. This is the sides to the table. I am happy to see that they are, in fact, branded. I've read some people get their pieces and they're not branded at all. Like they forgot to do it or something. Now, with this being the lighter wood, they did switch to the... and this is upside down. So they did switch to the branding versus the engraving. Truthfully, I would have preferred the engraving as it was originally stated, being laser engraved, because I just think it looks fancier on a product like this than the branding. However, I will say this branding is done really well. It's actually got some 3-dimension to it. It's pretty deep. It's not just a standard light, just like little branding that they put on their dice trays and whatnot. This is deeply branded on the side of the table. So it does look really good. I'm okay with it. Okay, I'm happy with it. But truthfully, I would have preferred the laser engraving. But that's just not something that they could have done because of machinery and Maybe it was a process problem. It was primarily a machinery problem, so that's why we got that. However, the packaging done really well. There was a piece of cardboard that was stored kind of in between these two. Again, we've got this material that wrapped everything. I just ripped it apart to be able to get to it quickly because I was like, hopefully this was there. And then this up top was like a massive piece of packaging. You can see there. Okay, and then this box did have a small box of build, like nuts and bolts and various different fasteners and whatnot that were included. So just make sure to find that. It was tucked right up in the side of the box. Just make sure you don't pull this stuff out real quick and then you throw these boxes away and you think that you don't have what you need, okay? I promise this time this is the last piece on the packaging, but I do think this is very important to be able to see how well it's packaged, that they really are putting the time and the care into packaging this stuff. So far, I'm really impressed with what they've been able to do here with the packaging. That's really good. Okay, so everything is out now. It does appear, well, let's not be too quick here. It does appear that everything's accounted for. We've got 4 sides of the tables. We have the whole topper. We have all 4 legs, and we have the entire underside of the table. Okay, we've got the entire underside of the table here. So there is just 1 box of installation components. I hope that's correct. I would think there'd be maybe more, but there is not. There's just 1. I do want to show now as we get into the kind of the review of the actual pieces. I'm not sure what's going on these longer ones, but if you can see here, there's equal holes where the plywood's going to attach. Boom, boom. Then we get into this thing, and I don't know what is going on here. It's just like tons of holes, like they're all over the place. And it's the same with this one as well. It's like holes right into the corner. That just looks like a mess up. And then they had to come back and like correct it. Not worried about that because you don't see any of that. That piece of plywood is going to be attached right here from the undersides. You're never going to see any of that. And even if for some reason those holes don't line up perfectly, I'm not worried about that. I'm pretty handy. I can drill holes, or I mean, we're getting it together. I'm not concerned about that. But it is one piece that I saw that looks like that, and that's on both of them. So I assume that's not supposed to be like that. Other than that, all the rest of the pieces do look they do look good. Okay, I've got everything out of the small installation box here. And I would say that in looking at this is absolutely everything that I need, okay? Hopefully the counts are properly and everything's in there on that. But per the instruction booklet here, which is signed by everybody, I guess that a major role. That's pretty cool. It looks like all the pieces for this table are fully accounted for. So what is missing in this last unfound tracking number box, I'm not sure what it is. The only thing that I can think that maybe it is, because there is one thing that is definitely missing, and that is the ash colored mat. So every table came with a free mat, free basing there to your table, right? The felt mat. I purchased the charcoal and I purchased the burgundy as extras, but the ash is included for free and should come standard with every table. It did not. So that is missing, and they do need to send me one of those. Outside of that, I don't think anything else is missing, which makes me very happy because I was afraid that one of my table boxes was missing. But per this instructions here and what it shows should be there to build the table, I'm seeing all of those things right now. Okay, so instructions pretty straightforward. You can see there's one sheet there. You flip it over. There's another sheet there. This looks like a boop, boop, done in 30 minutes. It's not. It's probably going to be hours before I have this table fully built. I will not be using a power drill to build this. I will be screwing everything in by hand. I don't even know why they recommend that, because if you don't have your torque set properly and you just go at it, you could end up overdriving one of those screws, cracking something, warping something, and you can specifically see right here, don't overdrive wood screws. Well, if you don't know what you're doing using a screwdriver or using a power drill, and you don't have your torque set right, that's exactly what you're going to do. So I think they should have thought through that a little bit more. But outside of that, I'm going to start building, and I'll check in as I build. Okay, I just wanted to show something here real quick. The reason I believe that they show this as recommended, although again, if you don't know how to use a power drill, you're probably going to end up doing just that, is because there is this custom bit that they include, which is nice. They included the custom bit that you need for these particular screws. You'll see there they have a square head on them. So they did give you the bit that's proper for that. And if you have your own hand screwdriver that, that takes those bits, then you can just pop out yours and you can pop this one in, okay? And you're ready to go. That's probably how I'm gonna do it, because, and you do want to get them nice and, you want to get them nice and hand tightened. You just don't want to overdo it. Now, if you don't have that, and you do have the power drill, then your bit's gonna go right, right in there. So let me give you a quick lesson here. You're gonna want to make sure that your torque, and yes, I am wearing Guinness pants, that your torque is set properly. That's what this is right here. On the top, your power drill, most of them will have, this one goes all the way up to 15, and it goes all the way down to 1, and then it has a drill setting. So you're gonna wanna start, pretty low here and put one in, and you'll notice when it goes in, it'll go in and then it'll start clicking. It'll go click, 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 right? That basically means that it doesn't have any more torque power. So then you're going to check it probably with a hand, and see, oh, is it tight, or you're going to kind of check it a little bit to make sure it's not loose, it's tight, and then you may need to go up a little bit more. You just don't want to overdo it. You don't want to have your setting like way up here, and then it won't stop. It'll have enough torque to just right through. I just poked a hole through there. It'll go right through, and it might split your wood. And that's what they're talking about right here, is don't over drill the wood screws, where you just keep going until it cranks it in and it ends up splitting it. Okay, so you can kind of look in there if you have any more questions on the torque here. You can kind of look online at various things, but just make sure you use a lower setting, and you don't overdo it if you are going to use the power drill. For people that use power drills all the time, this would just be the way to do it, and it would just be the obvious way to do it. But for someone that doesn't really understand how a power drill works and has their torque set too high, you could actually end up damaging something. So just something to kind of know there. And again, I'm probably just going to use this and just hand tighten it, because I can get it pretty tight, and then I can feel exactly right when it's just tight enough. So that's how I'm going to do it, because you do want the screws tight. Don't get me wrong, you want them tight so the table is put together well once it's all built. Okay, first part of this build that I want to call out is these pieces that you put on here. They're not going to like screw tight and stop. You need to have them. They're all pretty much going to be loose. You need to have them where this part right here is facing up, right? It shows in the directions. Just tighten it as tight as it'll go, and then back it off and get it to where, it's facing up, and they're going to be loose, right? And the reason is because they will then go into the side where you drop down into the wood. These little pieces here, right? There's one there, and there's one way down in there. You got to make sure that line is straight like this, because that piece is going to like slide right into the hole of this piece. You can see it down there like that. Now that one, that's not great, because it's going to work. It's not great, but these grub screws right here, that's why it says don't over tighten them. They're basically going to go right here, and they're going to lock in. They're going to screw down into there. You don't want them real tight, because that, as you build the table, you just put them in there loose. But they're going to screw down there, and that little tip right there is going to lock in to that piece that's down in there. And you can see that piece doesn't go all the way across. It's going to lock in, and it's going to hold, so I'm not worried about it. So this cleanly sits inside of there. Okay, but that's how that works. That's how it's going to lock it together. Okay, then to tighten those grub screws, you're just going to use the included Allen wrench. One of the sides has got like a little bit there, and you can just use that to tighten those and get down into those longer areas, which is nice. And again, you don't want to over tighten them. I don't leave them loose. I tighten them until it just like barely, like hardly no strength, just barely stops, okay? That way there's a tiny little give, and you want to do each one like that. So then you can get everything just right, and then you tighten and crank everything down once you get it all the legs on. Okay, another quick one. Let me show you. It might drive people crazy, and this might be a problem for you. When you take this grub screw, you put it down in this one, you can just drop it straight in and hopefully you nail it and you get it right. Or you can put it on your piece here and try to drop it down. But what happens sometimes is it kind of goes to the side and it ends up landing like this. And then you can't get it out. And then it's like, oh, do I have to flip the whole table over to get it out? Because you can't get it out with this that's not magnetized. If you have a magnetized screwdriver, you can stick it right down the hole and just pop it right back out. It's no problem. It may not, everybody may not have that. So the easiest way to do this is you just take this grub screw and you put it on. See what I just did? That's what you don't want to do. So it's upside down. So I'm just going to reach in there and I'm going to grab it and pull it back out with my magnetic screwdriver. Well, hang on a second. Let me get on there better. Get it and pull it out. Come on. See how much of a pain that can be? Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to put it on the tip of your Allen wrench there. All right. And then you're going to hold it right on the edge of the wood, and then you're going to use that friction and just slide it down, and then slide it right into place. And then you can screw it right in, and it doesn't fall and go to an awkward location, right? And it's done. So that's the easiest way to do it. Just put it on, and then just hold it right against the side, so it's being held by the friction of the side of the wood, and then just slide it right down and right into place, and you're good to go. Okay, now when you do the long side of the apron, you're going to have 3 of these that are going to go in. One there, just like we did with the sides. Then you're going to have the smaller one, okay? And this is the smaller piece. It's marked with an S. There's only 4 of them, okay? There's also 4 smaller grub screws, so remember, that's the only place these go. Then you're going to line all 3 of these up, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to push it in, okay? And then you're going to check here to make sure that it's not like messed up. So you might have to kind of move this a little bit and get it all square. See that's not right. We gotta pull that in. Now see, now it's right. Get it all square and aligned. Oh, now we're off here, so then we gotta grab this piece and square that up. You're gonna get that as best you can. Then you're gonna slightly tighten down those grubs again. Keep leaving them loose. And then once all 4 corners are done, then you're gonna go back and really get it perfect and then tighten those down. So then everything is just perfectly locked in and perfectly aligned. And that's how that's going to work. So just like the song indicates, it doesn't fold. You're gonna jiggle, jiggle. Okay, you're gonna jiggle, jiggle. Okay, now once you got all these sides square and tightened in, okay, I use this little tool to check for squareness. We're perfect. I checked that on all 4 corners. You want to make sure that everything here is as smooth and as tight as possible. People that have this little part here where it's like one side's up higher, that's their fault, okay? Because it would have been like this if I would have just thrown this together and started to tighten these down. You really have to kind of pull on it, get it just right, and then lock it down while it's kind of held in place, okay? So you're going to check all 4, make sure that's where you're at. So it's just a little at a time for these 3 screws here on each leg. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your tool here, and the ones where you can get in from this side and get that leverage, you're not going to go overboard. You're just going to until it's kind of like just some pressure and it stops, okay? This one here, you're only going to be able to do as much as you can kind of grab here and twist, okay? You just want to get it tight. You don't want to go crazy with it. You don't want to grab this thing and just be like, muscling it as tight as you can get it. Like, oh, I'll get it super tight and that'll hold forever. No, what's going to end up happening is you're going to split the wood, okay? You're going to break something. So you just want to get it to where it's nice and tight, but not like you're bending this thing and you're just strong-arming it in there, okay? All right, on to the next piece. Okay, so just to know here on your base, 2 of the pieces have no dowel rod holes on one side. All the other pieces have the 4 on either side, all right? The pieces that don't have the holes, those are your ends, okay? So don't put them all in there and just slap them in and then have to pull them back out, especially if you're screwing them in one by one. Don't do that either. Put all 4 in, dowel rod them together, make sure you got your ends on the right spot, and then go back, line everything up, square everything up, and then start putting your screws in. Okay, got it all built. You can see it's quite sizable because it is the wargaming table. So a couple things that I'll call out here before I flip it over. We kind of look at the next part. I'm not really sure, but I would have included kind of a cross support bar here in the middle. I'm not really sure why. I mean, it does tighten up quite a bit once you get all the screws in, but there's definitely some flex on all 3 of these joints, which, you know, I probably would have done like a wider, you know, not too tall, but like a wider crossbar that would have bolted to the end, came down, bolted to the end, and just really given that center table stability. If someone leans over on the table and pushes down on the table, that might be a problem. So I don't know. If there's a reason why it's not there, then okay. If it could be there, then I might just put my own on there for more table stability. So I wanted to call out that. Once you're done, I did have some extra pieces. So 2 screws, 2 dowel rods left over, the 4 pads for the feet. I'm also not a huge fan of what they did here. So I would have much preferred the little bored hole with a little screw-in foot. Not going too low, though, keeping the stability of this piece. That way you could just kind of, you know, most furniture is like that, where you can just kind of lightly adjust the foot if you have an uneven surface, which I'm sure a lot of people are going to run into. So you do have these pads. Even putting the pads on, you're still going to have uneven surfaces. They're too thick to put one on and not the other. You're going to have a pretty uneven surface if you're going that route. So what I would suggest doing is put them on, see how it is, and then probably take a razor blade and shave off a very small amount, because they're pretty thick pads. Shave off a very small amount of the pad to be able to lower one of the legs here and there to have that smooth, even surface. So I'm not sure why they didn't go with the screw-in feet. I think that probably would have been a better route, but I think these will work just fine. Okay, so that is the build in the table. I'm going to flip it over. I get somebody to help me because this is pretty big. I don't want to crack any of the legs. Don't try to do this on your own. You'll crack a leg possibly. And then we'll start to put the felt in and get the toppers on. Okay, so I got the table flipped over. I was able to do this pretty much all by myself. But you got to kind of know what you're doing there to be able to do that. Did have a little bit of help as it was coming down, but looks pretty good. I've got a couple of the cup holders. I got 6 of these, and I'll tell you why I got 6 here in a second. Did want to show you a couple things, one of which I'm disappointed with. So I went with the burgundy. I think the burgundy looks awesome with the maple. It just looks really, really cool. Burgundy on the maple. I will say that, and I called this out when I was building it earlier, that I really felt like there should have been a center brace piece underneath that went all the way around. You know, something that would have been about, I don't know, yay wide, and would just bolt to this side, go straight all the way across and bolt to the other side underneath. Yes, you are going to have a little bit of this lip of something coming off the side, but you're barely going to see that. And that would have offered center stability. Now on the smaller medium, or even large mead, I've been drinking too much beer, on the smaller or medium or large tables, maybe it's not a problem, but it definitely is on the wargaming table. And the reason is because the wargaming table is much wider, so you got a longer space to go, right, where you have that less stability. In the center of this thing, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. The center of this thing is like you're not going to be able to see it. I mean, you're not going to see it. It's just jiggling like this. Right, and then stabilizes. The center of this thing is basically like a trampoline, which is a problem. And, you know, for just sitting and playing games, it's not really going to be that big of a deal, because you're going to be out here, where out here it's pretty rock solid, right? I mean, for the most part, it's pretty solid. I wouldn't say rock solid. It's definitely got movement, but it's solid, right? However, if you're going to make a wargaming table, you got to know how a wargaming table is going to be used. So you're going to be moving into the center of this table, and you're going to be putting weight with one hand on the center of this table generally as you're thinking about where you want to move a model. Okay? And your hand's going to be on there. It depends on how you're standing at this table, how much weight you're going to put down on the center of that table with your hand as you're standing here thinking. Okay? That's just going to happen when on a wargaming table. You're going to lean over it. That's how it works. And when I do that, it flexes and it bends down. And that's a problem, because depending on how much weight that person puts on that could warp it over time. Maybe those dowel rods, the little wood rods that are in there, could get cracked. Probably not. It's probably more going to warp. And you could even potentially crack it or break it, but you'd have to put a substantial amount of pressure on it to be able to do that. I don't like the fact that just a little bit of weight, I'm just barely putting any weight, and I'm able to bow it. I'm able to push down and just bow it a little bit. That's not okay, and it shouldn't be trampoline-y like that, in the center of it. And you're not going to see that really on camera, but I mean, it's just like this in the center of the table, and that would all be corrected by a center brace underneath going all the way across that table. Most, if not all of that, would be corrected. So I'm going to put that out to Wyrmwood. You can either upgrade that for the next cut and then get everybody who bought a wargaming table that piece that goes on there, because I really, would prefer to have an actual Wyrmwood made piece, whether it was the plywood or a piece of maple that went all the way across. A piece of maple would look the best. So I'll leave that up to you. What you want to do there, regardless of what they do, I will be adding my own center brace if they don't do anything with that, because that's just not okay, the way that is. And that's just clearly designing something and not understanding how to fully use it. Okay, so because the wargaming table is different than the rest of the gaming tables in how you would actually use that table. So that's clear that wasn't really thought through. Okay, so let's go, just like I said at the beginning of the video, we're in review mode now. We're in paid thousands of dollars for a product mode, okay? All right, so now we've got the cup holders. Those are great. They work really good. You can put them on the inside, okay? Pull them off. There's a big magnet on the inside and the outside. You can put them on the inside, which is really cool. I got 6 of them because I want to use them, obviously, for cans, and, they're made for the stemware. That's why I got the smaller one. It's just more functional, okay? You've got the cans. You got the stemware. You got a bigger glass that can fit down in there as well. They didn't advertise it that way, but it works. I got 6 because you can use those if you're not using them for drinks. Got a couple extra ones. You can put your dice in them. Hold your dice, right? You can use that, pull it out. Roll your dice if you want, right? You can put your chits for different board games in here to kind of hold on to all your chits. That's why I got these. More of them than I needed. I also got these because I'm going to do a custom thing later where I put 2 of them on either the front or the sides, and I'm going to have a piece of wood that I'll try to get it to where it fits about flush, but I'm going to have a piece of wood that comes out, and then I'm going to put 2 peg rods I'm going to screw in, glue in, whatever, to the bottom of that piece of wood that will fit right down into these holes. And then I can have one of those little utility benches that will be supported by 2 of these, right? It's just a rod that will come down, will sit in either one, that's glued onto a piece of wood. And that'll work really well as a nice little utility bench with using the same product, right? So you don't have to create another SKU, another item. You reuse the same item in a number of different ways. So I'm going to do that. Something creative I'm just going to do myself in time. I don't need to do it right now, but in time. Here, let me show you real quick what I mean. So your standard beer can, right in there, right? Fits perfect. Okay, take that out. Pop this out. Put your wine glass in. So now you got 2 different types of drinks you can put in there. Here's your standard beer pint glass. I knew this would work. Fits right in there just perfect, right? It's not coming out of there. It's not like it's not held enough where it'll come out. It's completely down in there, and it fits perfect. So, in my opinion, the smaller cup holder is the way to go. It fits 3 different types of drinks. The only thing it's not going to fit is like a larger whiskey cup or like a mug or something like that. I guess if you had a smaller mug, you could put it down in there and the handle would go right through here. I do have smaller coffee mugs. Maybe it would work, but that's not going to fit a standard size mug. It's not going to fit a more of a whiskey type glass, but it will fit 3 different types of other drinks, as well as dub for a number of utility items like I showed just a minute ago. So in my opinion, the smaller cup holder was definitely the way to go, and that's why I got 6 of them. The other thing I wanted to show was just the sound. So we can pick that up here of some dice. Here's your standard, like your standard kind of plasticky kind of dice, right? There's a set of those. Listen. Okay. It's got a really good sound on that table. These dice I obviously would use against the wood as well. Okay. No problems there. That's got a really good sound. I'm okay with just that, the felt on the wood. At first I thought they should have put like an actual pad underneath and then the felt. And I could do that. Anybody could do that. Just get yourself a little rubber pad to custom cut underneath it. But I do think the felt is paddy enough on the wood. And you still get a little of that sound of that wood, which is nice. Now, metal dice, you would never want to take those and roll them into the inside of the wood here, unless you want to ding and nick up all of your wood, which maybe that's cool. You want the character there, but these, they have a much thuddier, kind of hollow, bouncy type sound. Okay, not bad. I mean, not bad, don't get me wrong. Just, these definitely sound the way I would want it to sound. These, you know, it's not too bad. It just, especially in the center, it gets really just hollow and bouncy. And that metal die, metal D20, literally can trampoline bounce the interior part of this table. Just that single metal D20. And that is not an oversized, it's just your standard size metal D20. And the inside of the table, when it hits, is going like this. Okay? So, I mean, it's kind of hard to explain with not being able to really accurately see that, probably here on the video. But it is a little bouncy. All right, so that's the dice roll. That's the accessories. We're going to get it moved into the other room, and then where it ultimately will go. It's out here on the kind of the kids' side of the basement right now, trying to get built. And then we'll put the toppers on, and we'll take another look at it with the toppers on. But I will say this is a giant table. It does look really, really good now that it's all put together. I mean, it really does have a good look. But again, for me, it would have been even better if all that naughty character would have been on these front sides than most of it being up under the underside. But I understand why they do that. All right, let's get the topper on. Okay, we've got it all set up now. Over here where we shoot. And you can see the table there. It's pretty big. I mean, I knew it would be. I mean, it just barely kind of fits in that space. Obviously, I don't get this side, but that's okay. I could turn it long ways. I might do that in time. We'll see. But I think this is the best way to do it. So you can see there with the topper on. Looks pretty cool. You can see the variation in the maple wood. Okay. And I really like that. I think that looks really good. And I'm glad that I went with maple. I know it was the lowest cost wood, but I just love the way that it looks. And it really reflects the light. It doesn't suck up the light. It makes actually this whole entire area of the room look even brighter. There's a number of can lights that I have up here on the ceiling, and they can all change colors as well with the acoustic ceiling. But it really brightens up that entire area of the room. Bear is ready to go. Look at him. He's ready to game. He's ready to play. So it looks really good all together. Again, the branding is only on those sides. I kind of wish they, you know, for my setup, I kind of wish they would have branded it on the long sides versus the ends. I think it would have actually even looked aesthetically better if they would have branded it on the long sides versus the ends, but that's how they did it. And then I went ahead and took all the acrylic pieces and I put them down on this side, just stacked on top of one another. So they're all three stacked up. There's three of them. And they will go all the way across the table. And they are really nice after I got them out of the blue wrapping. And I'll just leave them that way. I'll stack them up on one side. That way I can just always have them on the table. Because the table's so big. I mean, the point here would be I'm able to set up games on the top. I'm able to have games underneath. And for the size of this table, and that's one of the reasons why I got the bigger wargaming table, I could literally have 4 full-scale board games and or smaller skirmish miniature games set up at one time, which will really help for just gaming, shooting content, all that, right? So the only other thing I would say review-wise, I do think the toppers are pretty even. They work pretty good all the way across. However, there is one right here where there's a little bit of a, you'll see that little bit of a gap. Not a gap, but a ridge. It hits and kind of goes up, where these are all pretty smooth. I mean, I'm smooth right across, but then for this one, boom, there's a ridge right there, and I can show you what I mean. So that's definitely, you know, it's not perfect, right? And you can see it's off. I tried to reset it a couple times. I think if you use different pieces, different spots, maybe I could get it better. But just randomly taking all the pieces and just popping them on, that's what I got there for that side. And it's the same way on the other end. So you can see all the way down the ridge there. It's nice and clean, but then right there, right? Not so good. So one more thing we're going to look at from a quality perspective on these toppers that I think is important to see. And I think one of the things I am going to ask to be replaced, it's not a rush. I'm not going to like freak out about it, but I am going to ask them to replace one of these boards, and I'll show you why. So there's 2 problems that I've found with these toppers. One of which, you know, I think you're going to get some form of minor warping, just because it's and again, this wargaming table, because it's super wide. The wider these, it's not the length. The wider these tables are, the more potential warping you're going to get in these long pieces of board, as well as where we saw that kind of trampoline effect in the center of this table. So when you come over here, now we looked at this before where you've got this big ridge right here. And and then you can see the gap. Like, see this here? And then it bumps up like a 1/16 of an inch. You get that like a bigger gap, and then it's down to that right on the table again. Okay, so when you look at this board, and this is where I'm not sure that I would ask them to replace this, because I don't really know how they can control this perfectly. And you'll see, right? And it's doing that because it's warped. It's warped about halfway into the board up, and you can see where it actually does warp as well. See how it's nice and clean down there? Then that line starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you're here, right? So the board is slightly warped, and that's what's creating that. I don't know that I would ask them to replace that. I'm going to have to think about that. I don't think I will, because over time, just laying on this table, hopefully it actually kind of comes back a little bit. So look at here. We got a nice clean line pretty much outside of that little bump right there, right? Because that warped board. You can see that edge is a nice clean line all the way down. Okay? And that's what it should look like. All the way around, all the way down should be a nice clean line. Problem is when you come to this piece, you start looking at this line, it's like, oh, what's that right there? A bear's nose. Right? You get a nice clean line, nice clean line, nice clean line, nice clean line. What the hell is that? Okay? That's not good. And that's ugly. And I want fixed. That I want replaced. Because that line should be nice and crisp all the way down. And it's not. Now it's interesting that both of those paired up. And that's so off. And at first I thought, oh, it's got to be, maybe I don't have it. No, it's completely on there. It's completely flush and smooth. Okay? That's flush and smooth. That should be flush and smooth. And it's not. Now, if that was maybe a 1/16 of an inch, a little bit lower, I probably wouldn't have a problem with it. I'd probably just say forget it. But that's a good 1/8 of an inch off, and it's visually noticeable. And I don't know. I'm just, when it comes to a table like this, I want clean lines, and that's just ugly. It's visually noticeable. They took it at a higher angle, and they took more of it on this piece. And frankly, the other piece on the other side is like that as well. But it's not, it's thicker here too. But it's not as noticeable for some reason on the rest of these pieces. It's just not as noticeable. It's off a little bit. You can see it here on this side too, right? See that line's off. That's not straight on. But it's just not as noticeable. Like if it was that way on the other side, I probably wouldn't have a problem with it. But it's really, really bad on that other side. But it also causes this ridge, this little bump in this ridge. You can see it there, but you can see it really bad when you look at it this way. See how it's nice and smooth right there, and then you come here and there's like, it's off. You can clearly see this like bump where it's off, and then all of a sudden it's nice and crisp, nice and smooth all the way across, like a straight line, nothing, and then, right? That's all caused by that bevel being too deep, right? It should be thinner like this, where they took it too deep on both sides of this one. So, all right, said enough about the screwed up bevel. That's an example of a piece that I am going to ask to be replaced, and I'll send him pictures and everything of that, because I think that's a little much. And I don't know if I'm being too whiny about this, then I guess I am, but I want the table to look good, and that's something that is really off. On something that's light wood like this maple, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. So just another thing from a quality review perspective that I wanted to call out here in the video. You'll also notice that this lip does hang over further than the edge of the table all the way around, which is actually a good thing, because if there's any type of spillage, I think they designed it that way on purpose, it will just run right off and then off the table versus getting down into all these cracks. Okay. All right, so I think that's the full review of the table. So what would we say, right? Would we say, everybody says, oh, it's worth the wait. Because again, this was a year and a month late from when it was supposed to be here. As a content creator, that was a problem for me. I needed this table for a lot of different type of content, and I didn't have it. Content that I just really couldn't do on the Airtable that I had. So that was an issue. Was it worth the wait? I mean, that's hard to answer, right? Was it worth the wait? No, it wasn't worth the wait. I mean, I could have paid another company, more than likely significantly more money than I paid here, to get a really nice board game table, right? Really nice board game table. Could have done that. I didn't. So from that perspective, it wasn't worth the wait. Is it worth every penny of what it costs? Yes, and more so. The value of this table, I will have to say, is pretty phenomenal. It's pretty phenomenal, because this wargaming table in maple with topper, with 2 extra felts and 6 cup holders, was $1,755, I believe, through the Kickstarter. Now, it doesn't count the $400 in shipping on top of that, but that is how much the base table costs. And for what you're getting here for that price, that's a pretty damn good value. I mean, you're getting a solid piece, chunky table, and this thing is just, I mean, it's gorgeous, right? I mean, this is a lifelong table, it's absolutely gorgeous. So that's what I would say there on the value. I think the value is 100% there. I would also say that for what they've been able to do here, if they can keep the prices about where they're at, they really don't have any competitors. They really don't in this particular area. Even with some of the other big table names that are out there, you're going to pay significantly more money for those tables that are this size or even close to this size with all of these features. You are absolutely going to pay more money. Like, you can't touch a table like this for $1,800. You're paying $3,000, $4,000 for some of these other tables. So now, granted, we've got a couple things over the course of this review we found that could be better, but I'll have to say, for the amount of money that was paid and what has been ultimately delivered, it's pretty outstanding. It really is pretty outstanding, and I'm extremely happy with it. So I can't wait to get gaming on this. Bear can't wait to hit the table, and we're going to have years to come of awesome content with this table. So with that, all right, team. Well, hopefully you've got a good look at the new modular gaming table from Wyrmwood. I know the video was a little bit longer, but I wanted to go through the whole entire experience and really be able to provide every step of the way. Hopefully, if not anything, you've got some good build tips out of this video as you're putting these tables together, because they all do follow a pretty much the exact same design. So any of those tips and tricks will help you along the way as you're building the table to make sure you get a nice, solid, secure build that doesn't have any gapping issues. I will say through this process that I think a lot of the table fit issues and gapping issues that folks run into, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but it's probably due to the way that they're actually building it versus the product itself. Now, with that said, we've obviously seen a number of issues with this table that you saw in the video, some warping on a board, some bevel issues, but outside of that, and the center of the table obviously being quite unsupported, outside of those three things, I am really, I would say, overly happy with the table. It is a beautiful table. It is highly functional. And the one thing that I'll add, the value is here for this product. You are getting every single ounce of the money that you have put into this product in what you physically get delivered. So that's what I would say as far as the value for what's here. It's a beautiful table. It's every bit of the money that I put into this, and every cent of that is here. The value is huge for what you're getting. I would have absolutely paid more than that for a table of this size and this quality in today's market. So big win there, I think, for Wyrmwood, and big props there for what they've been able to do. We'll see if they're able to kind of keep that up as they go into further production of these tables, but big win there for them. Now, I'll also add, I have got in contact with Wyrmwood. I went through the same process that anybody would with the contact sheet online, and we've gone kind of back and forth a couple times. So we'll kind of see how they handle the issues that we've got with the table, and some things we can maybe do in the future. But Outside of that, I think if you are looking in the market for a really solid, high-quality gaming table, you might want to check out the Wyrmwood Modular Gaming Table as they get ready for a full website retail release. Team, keep rolling them crits. This has been the McGuire Review, and we'll see you next time.